No doubt that this pandemic is one of the most dire threats the world has ever faced. And yet, amidst the confusion and anxiety, there are ever stronger signs of hope and solidarity, a sense of and desire for togetherness. It is the spirit of global togetherness that gives us hope. Our shared sense of responsibility has seen a world come together in ways that are unprecedented. Climate change, trade wars, war and conflict, and many more. At times, it feels dark and lonely despite of numerous positive stories that exist but rarely get attention. It's high time we channelize our narrative for the development of mankind to help all of us visualize a better future and make a stronger ground for our future generations. VYAPT Growth Series stands strong to share our narrative of hope, growth, opportunities, and possibilities to fuel the idea of solidarity and a shared sense of global community. In our growth series today, we have with us Dr. Sumit Mitra, who is the CEO of Tesco Business Services. Sumit, with over 2 decades of experience, has been instrumental through his contribution in various industries. Welcome to the show, Sumit.
Thank you very much, Pankaj. Always a real pleasure talking to you, and I really look forward to this conversation.
Thank you so much, Sumit. We start with our first curiosity. And our first curiosity is, how do you see the growth of the retail business of consumer goods in quarters to come?
Interesting question. If you think about how COVID has hit us over the last 6-7 months, the way I define it, it's almost a sprint as well as a marathon for any organization. Sprint because you're having to adopt and adapt and change your business model to support your business, to support your customers, especially in the retail sector where it's far more resilient, and especially if you're a food retailer, it comes with a lot of responsibility to feed nations. And second thing, it's marathon because the aftermath of COVID is huge, whether it's the economic impact, whether it's the impact on our customers, the way they shop, etc. So what has happened and what we are seeing through India, where in the UK and in Southeast Asia as well as in Europe, we are seeing a significant shift in behavior of how our shoppers are shopping. So instead of making multiple trips and choosing what they want to eat today or next day, they are now planning ahead and they're doing more weekly shopping. So the number of footfall in our stores, what we call the bricks and mortar stores, have significantly gone down. But the basket size has doubled itself. And the type of food that our customers are buying now is different. Like a lot of focus on health food, a lot of focus on organic products, a lot of focus on vitamins, proteins, and good, healthy food. If we look at our online business, because of the less accessibility to stores and also fear amongst a lot of our customers has turned to online traditionally who would really shop in stores. If I look at Tesco, we used to do about 650,000 orders per week. That has more than doubled itself in the last couple of months. We are at 1.4 million orders, which made us kind of the biggest online food retailer in the world. So it's incredible to see how the shopping behaviors have changed. Now, as I said to you before, food is a very resilient business. So people will continue to buy food. So it doesn't matter what the economy. People may buy less expensive food, but it won't decrease the volume. But what they would buy would change. But from a retail perspective, I see a lot of positivity in the food retailing business. But the other retailing, sort of what I call it, the non-essential retailing, will probably take a hit over the next 6 months or so.
So when you talk about the growth of retail business, you're very optimistic about it that apart from the pandemic and everything happening, again, this is going to grow. But when you talk about this growth, Do you see that any opportunities which is coming your way, which is my second curiosity, which talks about that what are the opportunities the pandemic has created for your business and what transformations are required to leverage the changes in the landscape?
Yes, it's very interesting. As I said, that trend which I talked about, online, the pattern of shopping, that's also changing significantly. So, from a retail organization perspective, you got to make some significant changes the way you work. So, number one, it's no longer about profit; it's about purpose. To build a purposeful business. So in Tesco, we talk about serving our shoppers a little better every day. It's the purpose. So when you have that purpose in your head that you are trying to improve the shopping trips of your customers, you're bound to change your business. So I think almost, I remember a survey which was done a year and a bit ago, which said 80% of the customers will stop shopping in retailers who are not environmentally friendly or not doing right things for the society. So I think the profit has moved from profit to purpose. That's one big change. The second one, I feel, from hierarchy to empowerment is another big change, where organization had different layers of authority or jurisdiction. That has changed, and you almost have to now empower your frontline colleagues to take those right decisions for their customers. Like, for example, typically if a customer gets an online delivery and they get strawberries that might be smashed up or eggs that are broken, you wouldn't want them to call up a contact center to say, tell you what, I am, my strawberries is damaged, etc., etc. I need this, need that, the next thing. But I think what's really important here is, can the customer do self-service? Can they go in and get a £10 refund? And you got to trust your AI engine behind it should be able to tell you whether you can trust the customer or not, and whether they are irregular customers. Why do they have to go on a conference call or conversation with somebody to get a refund? So that's a big change. And that takes me to the third point, is how do we build technology? Technology, sometimes in the past few years, we talked about technology as an enabler for retail business. Now technology is right at the forefront in terms of driving your customer strategy, driving your supplier strategy forward. And I think if we are not investing in the right technology, if we are not investing in the right strategy in terms of technology, I think we will really struggle as a business. The next one is, privacy to transparency, because we see a lot of businesses, they believed in privacy, but it's no longer about privacy. It's about data. It's about using the data. It's being open and transparent as a business in terms of your supply chain, your value chain, in terms of how you're supporting your customers. That's going to be a real priority going forward. And planning, it's gone up in the air because of COVID, because whatever we planned in the last 5 years is not valid, or at least most of it's not valid. So planning has changed to almost experimentation, and that's where the technology comes in. So first and foremost, when you talk about growth, you need the one thing, this is constant, doesn't matter which sector you are in, is the leadership capability. And a leader who was successful in a BAU environment 5-6 years ago, or even 12 months ago, that's no longer valid. The rule book has been torn up and thrown in the bin. So you need almost a new breed of leaders who are ready to drive change and who are the change. And I believe that there are 2 or 3 real skills and attribute that is required to be the future leader. One, I always say, is the ability to design think, i.e. to think end to end, because it's no longer about bits of processes, it's about end to end, and bringing empathy into that end to end so that you can look at everything through a customer lens and drive your process improvements, your technology, your culture of your organization from a customer lens. Second one is your employees are your biggest assets of your organization, and they drive the customer experience. So important to connect every single employee to the purpose of your organization so that they are very clear why do they exist. So that has to be very clear. And the third one is, as a leader, which has been really tested in the recent weeks and months, is your resilience. And really important to be resilient to drive change and to accept change. You cannot be a superhero. You are not a Batman or a Superman and you will take everything on. Gone those days where leaders lead from the front. True leaders lead from the back. They empower, they ensure that their employee and workforce know what they need to do, and they're empowered to take the right decisions whilst you are there to steer the ship. And that's what leadership is all about for the future. So all the things that I talked about, it is about adopting and adapting your business to deal with the future. And and the businesses who would do that and put the first step forward will create that competitive advantage in the congested retail space.
You give some very good dynamics about trust being a part of the business, and AI using these kind of things to ensure that who are your trustworthy customers, and how you can probably leverage their trust to ensure that they do not get any kind of difficulty as a part of your customer experience and customer service. It's really nice. I'm sure many companies would be listening to you, and they would be excited to probably do this even in their organization as well.
Thank you.
So we start with our third curiosity now. So what are the direct and indirect employment prospects as we see the growth prospects in this segment?
I think it's a real opportunity for right kind of people who are out there in the market. I think organizations are looking for people who are more productive and more efficient, because less is now more. Second one, we would need colleagues and employees who are tech savvy, because I talked about technology will be right at the forefront. So how are you able to deploy technology and leverage technology, and are you technology savvy to run the business? Resilience is another really important thing, because in retail, as you know, it's very fast-paced, fast-tracked, and you need to be resilient as an individual to deal with that change that is happening in the retail sector. And finally, I think what COVID had taught us is the most important aspect of any employment would be empathy, building empathy in your culture, empathy in the way you think about the customer and talk to the customer. You ought to put yourself in customer shoes. I say something that we are all in the same storm, but we are all in different boats in the same storm. So everybody's problems, issues, concerns, and why they are in the shop is different. So as employees, it's really important that you understand what they want, why they want it, and provide that support through empathy. I think that's critical. And if we can do that, I think the opportunity for those super retail employees will be huge in the industry.
My fourth curiosity is, can you share some instances from your life which you feel helps you to aspire more and do more?
Okay, so let me give you a little bit of background of where I started off. I left India at a very early age, and I did my hires from Scotland, and I didn't have any family, friends, And then I went into to study medicine. And now you would be sitting here thinking, what on earth is he doing in the retail sector? So I studied medicine and I wanted to be a doctor. But then I realized that my calling, coming from a typical Bengali family, the first thing was either they want their children to be a doctor or an engineer. So doctor was my calling at that time, and I went to study medicine. And while I was studying medicine, I worked in a number of Indian restaurants in Scotland to support my basically tuition fees, my accommodation, and my cost, etc. And I ended up owning a part of an Indian restaurant, which I eventually sold to fund my MBA. Now, what did I learn from this? What I learned from this is future is never as how you see it. And if I can move from medicine into business, I think anybody can do anything. I am not the bravest, cleverest, or the smartest person on the planet. But one thing I have for sure is I believe in a vision. I believe in what I want to do, and I back myself to do it. I may not be the cleverest person on the planet, but I always back myself to come out trumps in whatever I do. And that comes from resilience, that comes from believing in your own ability, and most importantly, understanding your weaknesses, which you have. And sometimes you work on those weaknesses, but sometimes most importantly, those weaknesses you can never fulfill. So you hire best people to fulfill those gaps around you to ensure they make you look good. So my biggest lesson in life is that don't be worried about change. Change is the only thing that is constant in life. And as we live in a VUCA world, change will happen every day, every second, every minute. And we need to adopt and adapt our techniques, the way we work, to adapt with the change. And sometimes be the change and be the change engine to drive change within the organization. That would be kind of my biggest lesson that I've learned through my life.
That was really great to hear from you, Sumit. So thank you for the mind and heart talks. It was great interacting with you in VYAPT Growth Series.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.